Hey guys, my name is Katniss, and right from the start, I'll confess that it's not my real name. But before you find out why I need such secrecy, please subscribe to the MSP channel and leave a like. This will cheer me up and inspire me to share more juicy details of my story. Just don't think that I'm not giving you my name because I'm hiding from the tax authorities, creditors, or the police. Despite my young age, I make millions, pay huge taxes on my income, and have no problems with the law. I gave you a different name because I don't want to attract too much attention from the press. So that annoying journalist wouldn't write their stupid questions about my personal life in the comments on this channel. And all because at the age of 15, I was on the list of the highest paid Hollywood actresses according to Forbes magazine. Little Katniss's movie star career started at the age of 7. That's when I starred in a popular children's TV show. My first paycheck allowed my parents to quit their tedious, low-paying jobs and buy a big house in Malibu, by the billionaire's beach area. I began to pay them their monthly salary, basically give them pocket money for personal expenses so that they had everything they needed. Katniss, I always thought a child meant responsibility and a lot of problems. Well, there are tantrums, adolescence, bad friends, yikes, and also big expenses. Your mom and I were barely making ends meet, but you coming into our family solved all our problems. We said goodbye to poverty. You're our winning lottery ticket. I can't imagine who you take after, so beautiful and talented, Dad liked to say, and I just shrugged in response. At that time, my family was fabulously perfect. Directors lined up to get me for their lead role in their films, and I only agreed to proposals that were really interesting to me. I didn't go against my principles and allowed me to juggle filming and school. Yeah, like all teenagers my age, I continued to study and even planned on going to university. I had everything I needed and spent a lot of time at celebrity parties and social events, where my PR manager, Bobby, accompanied me. He was very flattered by the attention of the fans and journalists, although he was in my shadow. But since he was around me all the time, he was often seen on TV and the front pages of magazines with me. Once I even saw Bobby in front of the mirror rehearsing poses and facial expressions before we went out in public. It was very funny and I almost laughed out loud. Bobby and I spent so much time together that when I turned 17, he became my boyfriend. It happened really naturally, so it wasn't news to anyone. It's hard to say if I was in love with him. My parents liked Bobby. My relatives and friends were so used to him that our engagement in the near future was obvious. Actually, no one asked me if I wanted this. I was afraid to honestly ask myself the question, probably because of the fear that my inner voice would tell the obvious truth. So I turned a blind eye to the situation and just went with the flow. Whenever we were in front of cameras, Bobby was always hugging me by the waist, pulling me close to Kim, and kissing me passionately on the lips. And it was really pissing me off. But my boyfriend convinced me that such candid shots would benefit my career. Katniss, people need intrigue, gossip, and provocative photos. I'm telling you this not as your boyfriend, but as a professional PR manager. So stop frowning your pretty brows. And please show more passion to me in public. You're a talented actress. So show your fans how much you love me. Bobby kept pushing me. At such moments, I felt lost and escaped into myself for a while. The phrase, "you love me," brought confusion and disturbance into my soul. Why is my boyfriend so confident about that? And did I really love Bobby? After all, I never made any confession to him. Guys, what would you think if you were in my place? It is a pity that at that period of my life, I didn't have the opportunity to talk to you. Once Bobby made me so angry I almost lost it. We were going to a party and he casually said, "Katniss, I met very influential people, the sharks of the stock market. In the future, they could become my partners when I open my own business, and I need to befriend them. I promised these guys that you would spend this night at their table, so baby, relax your face a little and smile more." Can you imagine my emotions? My boyfriend is trying to improve his business using my popularity, selling the opportunity to spend time with me with great profit for himself. Ugh, how filthy! I was tensely silent for several minutes, trying to keep my self-control and choosing the right words for Bobby. And when he pulled up at the posh mansion where the party was taking place, I called my boyfriend a bastard, jumped out of the car, and slammed the door loudly. "Katniss! Katniss!" Bobby's loud screams followed me, but it was so unbearable for me to hear his voice that I ran through the dark streets in an unknown direction and didn't look back even once. This went on until I realized I was lost, and to be honest, I got a little scared. The ringing silence and the loud echo from my footsteps evoked the atmosphere of a horror movie I starred in at the age of 10. But it got much worse when I suddenly heard footsteps that weren't my own. A man in a black mask was approaching me very quickly. Can you imagine what I felt? My heart almost jumped out of my chest, breaking into small pieces. But I didn't have the strength to try to run away or just scream. I wanted to grab my cell phone, but I couldn't find it. I remembered leaving my purse in Bobby's car in a fit of rage. God, what an idiot I am. That moment, I swear I already felt the evil breath of the masked man on my face. A chilling thought was spinning in my head. What if this is some maniac? Very close to me, I saw a telephone booth, and I jumped into it, trying to hide. Once inside, I sat down at the very bottom and hoped that the pursuer hadn't noticed where I disappeared in the dark. But he noticed, and a moment later, through the window of the booth, I saw a menacing masked face. It seemed huge. I didn't have time to get even more frightened because the pursuer put on a white sheet of paper to the window, and the words on it made me feel cold inside. Say goodbye to your life, ungrateful pig. Your time is up. The next moment, there was a loud bang, and the stranger broke the booth door with something heavy, and I was covered in pieces of plastic. A second later, the masked man vanished into the darkness, as if he'd never been there. I was trembling. I'll never forget my heartbeat in the silence of that night. Boom, 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 boom. Short beeps were coming from the handset, which had fallen off the telephone during the impact, and they pulled me out of my daze. I dialed Bobby's number, and he picked me up from the nightmarish place 10 minutes later. "You're crazy," my boyfriend yelled at me as I was sitting in his car, holding the warming coffee that brought me back to life. "You can't be left alone for a second." "What if it's scary to think what could have happened to you?" Bobby said, and in the headlights of passing cars, I saw sincere grief in his face. I completely agreed with my boyfriend and also thought that I wasn't quite sound. "Bobby, thank you so much for coming to get me so quickly. I thought I would die of fear. You're my savior, and I'm sorry for the words I said to you today. They were mean and unfair," I said and gently kissed my boyfriend, and he got all soft and melted from my kiss. I asked Bobby not to tell my parents about what had happened, but he naturally blabbed about everything, and even wrote about the incident on his Instagram page without telling me. Apparently, he wanted to raise more hype, get likes, and become famous as my savior. And he also hoped that my parents would ask him to never leave my side after what had happened. And they did. But the reaction of the director on whose film I was working at the time was quite unexpected. "Katniss, filming is in full swing, and we've already invested millions of dollars into this project. Big money's at stake, and if something happens to you, we'll lose it. In light of recent events, the producer and I have decided that you need a bodyguard. Even if you want to object to it, there can be no discussion. Such a clause is now in the contract, and here he is, by the way. I want you to meet Angel," said the director. I wanted to object and open my mouth to start, but I froze with my jaw dropped. My bodyguard looked like a young Keanu Reeves, with whom, by the way, I once worked on a movie set. The dark, strict suit of my personal security guard emphasized his bulked-up biceps in all the right places, and thick hair beautifully framed his pale and serious face. Well, overall, I didn't mind such a handsome man. Angel didn't leave my side, not only at school, but at all social events and even on set. He calmly stood behind me during photo shoots and inspected the cubicles of women's toilets in public places before I entered them. It was hilarious. You should have seen the face of one old lady who once saw Angel checking for explosives in the toilet tank and carefully examining it. Very often, the poker face of my bodyguard was getting into the frame during filming and ruining great scenes. The director was furious, but couldn't help it. After all, it was his decision to assign Angel to me. Bobby was also furious because my bodyguard wouldn't leave us alone for a second and didn't react in any way to the displeased hiss of my boyfriend, whose behavior was far from perfect. "Why are you staring at us, freak? When will you leave us alone? You want to check my girlfriend's underwear to see if it's safe?" "If there's ever a reason, I'll definitely check. It's my job," Angel retorted, such attacks against him calmly and with dignity. I liked this guy more and more. Sometimes I would catch him looking at me. At such moments, his usually strict face was lighting up with a childishly naive smile, and I was blushing and getting embarrassed for some reason. In addition, against the background of my fragile boyfriend, the tall and broad-shouldered Angel looked very attractive. I began to feel an attraction to him, which I'd never felt to anyone before. Honestly, I was very glad that my bodyguard didn't leave me and Bobby alone. I became more and more distant from my boyfriend. Apparently he felt that, and one time during the filming, he directly asked me what was happening. I told my boyfriend that I wanted to put our relationship on hold for now, and after that I felt lightness and freedom inside. Bobby acted very unpleasantly and threw a tantrum right on the set. For some reason, he decided that I got myself a rich lover, and that's why I was leaving him. With all the giggles and whispers of the film crew, I didn't have the strength to change my boyfriend's mind. At that moment, he became an ex. I sadly imagined the news about my infidelity on the front pages of tomorrow's newspaper. Internally devastated after the scandal, I decided to walk home that evening, and my loyal Angel, of course, was with me. When we were already approaching my house, he suddenly froze and took a frightened stance, as if preparing to jump. "Katniss, shh! There's someone here," Angel whispered and put his finger to his lips. At that moment, a man in a black mask ran out from behind a tree. There was no doubt in my mind that it was my stalker who threatened me a couple of months ago in the phone booth. He was holding a bottle of some stinky, foamy liquid, and he was going to throw it right at my face. But before this man in the mask had time to swing at me, Angel grabbed his arms in a death grip. At that moment, I felt the warm feeling of security, because I knew that my bodyguard would never let go of my pursuer, who was vainly trying to get out. Naturally, he couldn't beat the mighty Angel. And then the masked man splashed the bubbly liquid from the bottle onto my bodyguard's hands, and it was acid. It's hard to imagine the hellish pain Angel experienced, but he still didn't loosen his grip. With a powerful lunge, he threw the pursuer to the ground and tore off his mask, under which I saw the face of Bobby. My ex-boyfriend wanted to throw acid on me? The horror and shock I experienced at that moment cannot be described in words. "Ungrateful pig!" Bobby screamed, with foam at his mouth, and the sound of police car sirens covered his voice. "I wasted so many years on you. You owe me your career. Without me, you're a waste of space, a supporting actress." My ex wouldn't stop yelling even when he was handcuffed. And exactly an hour later, Angel, with bandaged hands, left the doctor's office and said the words that made me the happiest girl in the world. "Katniss, I'm madly in love with you. I got so scared for you today that I almost lost my mind. This contradicts the professional code," and he didn't have time to finish, as I threw myself on his neck and kissed him, passionately. Can you imagine that for the first time in my life, I didn't care about the camera flashes of the paparazzi who appeared in the lobby from nowhere? Guys, I finally fell in love for real.